How you doing, guys and gals? My name's Doug Wilson, and this is Yellow Hawk Customs Outdoors YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. And today we're going to talk about stoves, backpacking stoves. Not camping stoves. To me, a camping stove is the 2-burner Coleman, folds up, carries like a suitcase, 10 pounds, 2 ounces, whatever, okay? That's a camping stove, okay? Backpacking stoves can be camping stoves, but backpacking stoves are generally one-person cookers. You can cook for 2 or 3, but you need a bigger pot, that kind of thing. So we're going to talk about the difference between what I call an open frame stove and a closed frame stove. Okay? So if you guys stay tuned, we're going to talk about the differences and which stoves I believe to be the most efficient in the backcountry. Stay tuned. Okay, so I have 3 stoves here, okay? I have a couple more upstairs. I've been backpacking since I was 10 years old, right? I'm an Appalachian Trail thru hiker from 2007, 2008, and I spent, I don't know, probably all told 5 or 6 months on the trail, okay? At different times during that thru hike. It wasn't a start and finish thru hike like some people do it. It was 1 year half, next year half, and So anyway, I spend a lot of time on the trail. I do a lot of backpacking, not as much as I used to, because I'm getting older, right? But I love spending time out there hiking with a backpack. There's a difference between camping and backpacking. Camping, you take everything in your car, you pull up to the campsite, you unload the car, so you can take anything you want, right? Backpacking is you going out into the field and carrying your house, your food, your water, your clothing, all the essentials, everything you need to live in a backpack. And walking from point A to point B to point C, D, E, F, however long you're going to be out there, right? So you want to try to keep things on the lighter side. If you're huffing it, right, you're going to want to keep things as light as possible. If you're in that position, okay, a backpacker, okay. If you're a camper, any of these stoves will work for you. And honestly, if you're a camper, you might as well just buy a 2-burner Coleman stove and call it a day, right? Because you're going to get a lot more cooking power out of that than one of these, okay? Because you're going to be wanting to cook for groups of people, right? But if it's just you, you can get away with a stove like this, a solo backpacker stove, okay? So let's start, okay? I'm going to show you the first stove. And what I consider it to be, okay? This is called a Brunton Crux. Now, Brunton was bought out by Optimus, I believe. So now this is the Optimus Crux, okay? They still sell this stove because it was a heavy hitter when it first came out because of its lightweight and size, you know? But this is what I call an open frame motor, okay? I'm sorry, not an open frame. An open frame stove, okay? And basically, how it works is, you take the stove, get yourself a fuel canister. There are several companies that make these, all the way from 4 ounce all the way up to 32 ounces, right? I take the 8 ounce ones usually, okay? You screw it on to your fuel canister. Now this can be a little irritating. You got to get the threads to match up, and it's kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. There we go. All right, now I spin it a couple of times. Make sure your bail is closed when you actually seat the burner onto the canister, okay? Because if you don't, you're going to have fuel leaking out and making you sick, okay? So there it is. That's about it. That's all there is to it, okay? These stoves are not very efficient, and I'll tell you why, okay? Now, I'm looking at it from a backpacker's point of view. Fuel savings and weight, okay? It fits in this little thing. It's nice and small. It's, you know, it's a tiny stove. But when you turn the flame on, when you actually light it, all right, that's all it takes to light these things. And we'll get into summer versus fall versus winter performance later on in the video. Okay, and that's all there is to it. Now, here's what happens. When you put your pot on top of this, okay, to heat up your water or whatever you're going to heat up, okay, 80% of the heat is being lost from around the sides of your pot, okay? It's coming out, going over, and it's being dispersed into the air, okay? I believe they call it, not convective, yeah, convective heat loss, okay? There's 3 different ways that you can lose heat: convection, radiation, and conduction, which is when you're touching something and your hand's warm, the cup is cold, and it goes from cold to your hand, makes your hand cold, right? Anyway, so you're losing a lot of that heat, making these stoves here not very efficient, okay? So the wizards at all the stove companies figured, well, let's build ourselves an enclosed heating system as a stove, okay? Along comes MSR, right? Now, I've tried quite a few different makers of this type of stove. This one for me is the best, okay? Has the best performance, the best cold performance, the best wind performance. It's just an all-around favorite of mine, and I won't use any other stove out there. If I have my choice, I'm using this. This is the MSR reactor, okay? And it's more of a radiant heat stove, and I'll show you how it works. If I get the damn thing open, all right? Now, the whole thing is a kit, a stove kit. You get your pot, okay? It's all enclosed. This is my chamois thing, but I keep everything I need in here, a lighter, blah, 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 right? Whatever you want to put in here. You don't need a pot holder. There's a handle built into the pot, okay? And here's the burner unit, okay? And I'll show you exactly what it looks like when you light it up, okay? Light the stove up. Let's put the Brunton over here. Now remember, pretty inefficient, okay? Will it boil water? Yeah, in about 5 minutes, right? Will it save you fuel in the long run? No, this is a fuel guzzler. Most of them are, okay? Because you're losing a lot of heat. All right, so let's get back to the reactor. Now all this is based on experience in the field, okay? I didn't read this in a book. I actually do it in the field, and that's how I know this is the best stove, in my opinion, for field use, backpacking, camping, whatever you want to do. If you're a solo camper, a solo backpacker with maybe just a girlfriend or a couple of friends or whatever, okay? So, again, make sure the bail is closed. Okay, put it on. This actually screws on easier than one of those other stoves. Okay, I don't know why, it just does. Okay, you don't want them super tight, just snug. That's it. Okay, and you light it the same way that you light the other one. Turn the bail, listen for the gas, and light it. Okay, now these stoves can be used one of two ways. It's supposed to, within 30 seconds, start to glow orange, okay? It's just starting now. So what I do is, if it's not glowing orange right away for me, I'll relight it, okay? And usually that will, I don't know what it does, but gets it to do that, okay? This is more of a radiant heat. Okay, there's really not too much flame there. It's like all radiant. I don't know what the chemical is they use, the burner part or whatever. It looks like a sponge, but it's hard, like a lava rock type thing. Okay, but this is an extremely efficient stove, and I'll show you why. Okay, the bottom of this, I'm going to turn it off. All right, because it's radiating heat. And it's hot in this basement. I got the fan on, so if you guys are like, there's something wrong with your microphone. No, there's not. It's the fan, all right? And I'm hot down here. It's hot. Okay, so I have had this stove going on 6 years, give or take, okay? Here is the magic of this stove, this enclosed heating system. The actual burner part is enclosed. There's no heat lost from the sides like there is from an open frame stove, okay? All of that heat, all of that flame, all of that radiant heat is funneled to the bottom of the pot immediately, okay? These are called heat exchangers. These little fins here. That makes it even more efficient. Boils water even more quicker. It burns. It heats water quicker, right? Boils water quicker because you not only have the heat being trapped, but you have the fins, all the fins being heated up and exchanging their heat to the bottom of the pot, making it boil even quicker. Okay. And it sits on top of the burner just like that. It's pretty stable, right? You can hit it, and, you know. Now, if you hit it hard, that pot's coming off of there, right? But it's kind of clicks onto there, okay? And extremely efficient, all right? Some of the heat gets pumped out of these vent holes here, but by that time that happens, it's already hit the bottom of the pot, okay? So this is a closed system, right? Hence, it boils water really quick. I don't know, like 2 minutes. A quart of water in 2 minutes. Look, I'm not going to get into well, how fast is it real? It is much faster than one of these. Much faster. It saves you much more fuel than one of these. Okay? That's all I know, right? I've done the actual... I use them in the field. It's like what I do. All right? So this is my favorite stove, MSR reactor. Now, canister stoves are notoriously terrible in cold weather. And when I say cold weather, I'm not talking 40 or 50 degrees. I'm talking below 30, okay? Below 30 degrees Fahrenheit, these stoves start to lose pressure, okay? And here's how it works. Okay, let me take this off. Take it off. Right, everything fits in the pot. It's pretty like brainless, right? No, just a no-brainer for me. Okay, pot, right? And you got to have a lid for your pot. You got to. Your water will boil much quicker with a lid on it than with a lid off. Okay. With these stoves, you have to carry all that stuff. I keep this stove inside this canteen cup, and that's what I cook with, the canteen cup. Okay. But this system here isn't that much lighter than this system here. Okay. It's a little smaller, yes. This is a little bulkier, but this one weighs about 15 ounces. This one weighs about 13 ounces. Okay, just what I have here. Okay, the canteen cup and the stove. Okay, so where were we at? Cold weather performance, right? These canisters are under pressure. Let's say this thing has 8 pounds of pressure in it. I don't know what it is, but let's say it's got 8 pounds of pressure in it. At 20 degrees, it's got 4 pounds of pressure. At 10 degrees, it's got 3 pounds. At 0 degrees, it's got 2 pounds. You see where I'm going with this? The flame is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And you really need a good flame. I mean, you know, to actually boil water, you got to have a lot of heat on the bottom of that pot, right? So, I racked my brain for years to figure out how I was going to be able to use one of my favorite stoves, a canister stove. That's what these are all called, canister stoves, in the winter, because that's what I do when I do the majority of my backpacking camping. I like getting out of there and challenging myself in cold weather, okay? So, eventually, I stumbled onto this, okay? I made it, okay? This is a homemade windscreen, okay? Now, this was just made out of aluminum foil because I lost my other one. I think I lent it to somebody and he didn't give it back, and now he has it, okay? Anyway, it's cool. I'll build another one. That one was built out of thicker aluminum, right, that I could actually still fold up, though, okay? So I built this one as a pinch hitter, and this is how this works, okay? It works for this too, okay? It'll work for this too. That's where I actually started this system, okay? So you can see how long it is this way, right? And it's really long this way. So it fits entirely around the stove and then overlaps a little bit so that it holds heat in a little, okay? It doesn't get super hot in there. It's not that closed up, okay? But it does stay hot enough to heat this bottle and keep it at max performance in cold weather. I've had these things down to minus 10, minus 15 degrees, and they work just fine. Got to have the windscreen, though, because if you don't, these canisters freeze, and you're not getting much out of them. You may never boil the water, right? So let me put this guy back on here. All right. Close the bail. All right. I'm not going to actually light it this time. I'm just going to show you how it works. Okay, let's put it on there. Okay. Stove sitting there, right? This is how it works. Boom. All right. Just like that. Pot goes on top. Okay. And the little bit of heat that does escape heats that bottle up, keeps it just warm enough to push out pressure, to the max, right? It really, no problem. It really works well. It doesn't get 300 degrees in there, 200. It's, I don't know, 80 degrees on a 20-degree day or something. Depends on how much you overlap it and how much you close it in, okay? If it's really cold, I'll close it in pretty tight, like that. If it's not, I'll leave it open a little bit, right? Let me show you what's going on here. There, all right? See that portion? All right, it'll overlap and close real tight, or it kind of just sits there like that. It also acts as a windscreen. Now these MSR reactors are very good in windy weather, okay? Reason being, the wind can't get to the flame to blow it out, right? Because it's a closed system, right? However, a strong enough gust will blow this thing out. But it's really got to be blowing hard, okay? So this acts as a wind deflector for a stove like this, but the MSR really doesn't need it too much unless it's really windy, right? Light breezes, this thing just shrugs them right off, okay? Boils water, you know, I can fill this thing 3/4 of the way up and boil the water in 2 minutes, something like that, 2:30, something like that, okay? That's pretty quick for that much water, okay? This is a 1 liter pot. They actually sell them in 1.7 liter and I think 2.5 or 2 liter, right? I only need the 1 liter pot because I'm usually just cooking for myself, okay? Now I have a very specific way that I cook in the backcountry. Generally, I'm not saying I do this all the time, sometimes I do not cook in this pot. Generally, I boil water and then add the water to my Tervis cup. I have a 16-ounce insulated Tervis cup that I put whatever I'm going to eat, I put it in the cup, rehydrate it with the boiling water, stick the lid on, or, well, actually, get them. Stir it up a little, stick the lid on it, and leave it for 10 minutes. Those Tervis cups work in the coldest of weather, right? I virtually never have a problem. I never eat cold food out there. It's always hot, right? Because it's usually wintertime when I'm out there, right? Or at least fall, right? But I have a very specific way, and what that does is it cuts down on dishes. I hate doing dishes. Hate them at home. I hate them in the backcountry, right? Don't like to do dishes. It's a waste of time, right? So I devised a method by which I really don't have to do any dishes, right? Don't cook in the pot. Just boil water in it. It's already clean, okay? The Tervis cup, I take a little bit of extra hot water when I'm done my meal, put it in, shake, put the lid on, shake the cup up, right? And throw it out. Might have to do that a couple of times and then wipe it out with a paper towel. You're done. There's no dishes to do, okay? How many times have you been on a camping trip or a backpacking trip and guys are cooking in their pots, right? And, oh man, I gotta wash this dish, right? And it sits there overnight, gets crusty, and, you know, well, I don't want to do it, so I divide. Living in the backcountry is all common sense, all right? Most of it. And remember, the more you need, the less you know, right? So, these things, these accoutrements, just make things... Hey! Be quiet. No. These accoutrements just make things easier out there. That's all. And it leaves more time for other things. Sightseeing, or catching snakes, or building bow drill sets, or doing your bushcraft stuff, building shelters, whatever, okay? This needed stuff, like eating, is pretty quick with a system like this. I'm okay with a fire and cooking over a fire. I'm okay with that, but this is a lot quicker. You know, sometimes it takes you 2 hours to cook on a fire. You got to build the fire, you got to wait for the coals, and you got to wait for the food, blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, you got to turn it this way, and do the teeter-totter on the log thing, and what a bummer, right? So I suggest you carry a stove out there, right? Much more efficient way to eat in the backcountry. However, if you're into the bushcrafty thing and it's your religion, I'm sorry, right? I'm sorry. I'll hide this, right? So you do the bushcrafty thing, okay? Generally, I'll take a stove out there with me. This thing can save your life too. I've had several trips where it was so cold, like -20, -19. I was in Montana one year, minus 40. It's like, oh man. This thing will save your butt in the winter because you can use it as a heater too, right? And it works. You put this thing in a tent and you can have it up to 50, 60 degrees in 10 minutes, right? It works. I've done it. Just be careful. Don't fall asleep. Don't let it anywhere near your gear because it will burn it. I had one mishap one year. I had bought a Western Mountaineering Antelope. Okay? Nice, I don't know, 0 degree down bag. It got it. The stove got it. Burned the draft tube a little bit. But it was kind of like a blessing in disguise. There was a hole in the draft tube. So what I did was I came home and ordered some down and overstuffed the draft tube and then sewed it back up. So it became a better sleeping bag, you know. It was something I wouldn't do on my own, but since there was a hole in it anyway from burning it, I overstuffed the draft tube. And the draft tube of a sleeping bag is what hangs over the zipper and keeps that cold air from coming in to hit your body, right? So nice plump draft tube makes that sleeping bag a lot more efficient. I'll do another video on sleeping bags. That's another area where you really can't skimp in the backcountry. You gotta have a warm sleeping system. If you don't, you're not gonna have a good time. You're not gonna sleep well. And I hear these guys, right? Oh, I need my wool blanket, and I'm good down to minus 10. Bullshit, right? You're gonna freeze your ass off, right? I've done it. I've done the wool blanket thing in the winter. Cold, right? You got to build a certain kind of fire right next to the shelter. You got to build a long fire and, you know, tend it all night. And I tell you, it's just a lot of work when you're into the bushcraft religion, okay? Although it's fun, it's great to have those skills. I went through that phase. You know, bushcraft was my religion, right? Learned a lot, right? But, you know, I'm getting older now. I like a little comfort out in the backcountry. So I carry stuff like this, right? Especially backpacking. I've done this all my life, carried stoves for backpacking because they're just more efficient and you eat quick, okay? All right. Well, one more thing. I wanted to show you another one of these closed system stoves. This is the Jetboil. Okay, now, do I use this stove? Sometimes, okay, but this particular Jetboil does not do well in the cold, okay. When I put put the screen around it, the system is so enclosed that it robs the flame of oxygen and it goes out on me. So I can't even use the windscreen with it, okay. My dad bought this for me a couple of years before he died, and I'm keeping it. You know what I mean? This is, you know, me and my dad, we were outdoorsmen, right? He was the fisherman and the hunter, and I was the bushcraft survivalist type thing. Hello, dinner. All right, thank you. So this is a Jetboil. Works great. A lot of thru hikers carry them, okay? I still think the reactor is a better stove. Even with the new Jetboils that are out now that do better in the wind and all that, I think the reactor's still a better stove, okay? But if you like the Jetboil, use it, okay? I use the MSR reactor because it works, and it works well, okay? All right, that's it, guys. I hope you learned something from this video. If you didn't, sorry. Maybe you know all this stuff already. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But I figured I'd share it. You know, spent most of my life in the backcountry, so I share this kind of information. Hopefully you can do something with it, right? Thanks for watching. See ya!
Yellowhawk Customs Outdoors. Combat and wilderness grade custom knife and sheath systems. We've got the badass gear for the badass outdoorsman. Yellow Hawk.